Encounter 1000 Desert Race, the third race in the 8-leg series of the Absa Off-Road Championship, was held in Gaborone, Botswana. And after 2 very tight days of racing, it was still up for grabs. But let's recap the first day of racing over 460 odd kilometers. Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholtheimer in the Ford SP had pole position after a fine prologue, with SA champ Evan Hutchison and Achim Bergman just a second behind in their Motorrite bat. Father and son, Nick and Ryan Harper, were off in the third spot in their Dermasun bat and were chasing hard. The Atlas Copco bat of Gary Berthold and Harry Costain qualified 6th, but they made a serious surge up the order, clocking the fastest time of the day. Woolridge and Scholtheimer, though, the winners of this event in 2000 and 2001, were jetting off, but disaster was waiting for them around the corner. Nardis Alberts and Colin Hunter and the Rapsa Bat Spec 2 were in 7th place off the line, but they would conversely make their way up the standings despite this little stutter. The Harpers, who both keep themselves in fine physical shape, were reaping the benefits and were raring to go at the big name teams. But there was only one team flying high. 3-time winner Hannes Grobler and his nav Francois Jordan were taking off and were putting together an amazing drive. They were 16th after the TT, but were low flying. The 1990 winner of the desert race, Richard Schilling, was 8th fastest after Friday's prologue, and he too was putting daylight between himself and some of the works teams. His closest challenger in S-Class was Naheem Mosaji and his co-driver Royhan Budyana, who were 3.5 minutes in arrears. Talking classes, in Class A, 2005 champion Alfie Cox and his co-Henny Terstege were already up and into the top 10, despite starting 12th. The Motorrite special vehicle was piling on the pressure. The Absolute Underwriting Managers bat with Clint Gibson and Michael Brown in attendance drove in second for most of the way, an art if ever there was one. Another man who was making art, high speed as it was Castrol Toyota driver Mark Cronier, the former trackman, with Chris Birkin calling the route. He was impatient, from there the blaring hooter or screamer, and he was also overtaking at a rate of knots. The second Ford SP car was piloted by Rob Gurney and Graham Steinbank, who were 11th, but they too were nailing some big names out there on day 2. In Class D, Mark Corbett and Jean Moore were flying the flag for Century's Property Developments in their Nissan Hardbody. They were up into the top 10 after starting in 18th. For the Ford crew, it was a fine showing again by Class E leader Manfred Schroeder and Ward Huxtable, who were as always super consistent. Another SP class competitor was Castrol Toyota teammates Bevan Berthold and Robin Houghton, who were 22 places to the better and 4th in class, with Fabio Tafani chasing them down. First at the designated service point, or DSP, was the Atlas Copco bat, still sounding great.
How's the arm, Chana?
While Grobler and Jordan stormed home second, having overtaken all but one car in front of them, up from 16th to 2nd. The bush of Botswana is notorious, and this tyre on the back of the Harper special vehicle confirmed it. That was a big prime cut. For Woolridge and Scholtheimer, a litany of problems caused them to fall from 1st to 43rd. This included a broken front diff, prop shaft trouble, and no 4-wheel drive or power steering.
Mike, what's wrong?
For the Motorrite crew, there was elation and worry. Brandon Harkis was up into the top 10, but Hutchison had slipped 54 places. Some teams had complete vehicle bodywork remodeled, but the Nissan lads were furiously at work readying the charge for the final 200-odd Ks back to the capital, Gaborone. With the locals in a frenzy, the Grobler-Jordan combination did not disappoint crew or fans. They stormed into the lead shortly after DSP, and despite wrong slotting a few times, they were setting the pace, looking for win number 2 of the 2006 season. But this mistake gave Berthold and Costain another chance to close the gap, but in the end, they just couldn't keep up. The Dermasun lads, the Harpers, were closing a few gaps of their own and were just 4 minutes behind the yellow Atlas Copco. Former motorbike ace Alfie Cox had surged up the field, and with Henny Terstegen in the co-pilot seat, the Motorrad twosome clinched 4th place. Grenier and Birkin brought the slightly remodeled Castrol Toyota Hilux home in 5th place for a solid 2nd place in the SP class. While Nardus Alberts and his co-Colin Hunter impressed with a solid drive home from DSP to clock 3 hours and 45 seconds for day 2's 460 Ks. Gurney and Steinbach were charged with being the top forward following the demise of Schultheimer, and their Ranger did the team proud. Motorrad's Brandon Harkis, despite getting horribly lost at one stage, was still fast enough to slot into 8th place, driving solo, a great performance. The red and white Plastotech Raceco in the capable hands of Schilling was good enough to take 9th, even though they made the same mistake here at the road crossing. Which gave Corbett and Moore a chance to close the gap. And the Weichholtz, Cliff and Louis in their Bosel Toyota Hilux took 11th, up 2 places from the prologue. In Class E, Manfred Schroeder and Ward Huxtable were ahead by almost 7 minutes and were looking in control. The Barkhuizens, George and Sharon, were 3rd in Class E in their Toyota Hilux, also slightly remodeled. While Mark and Stuart Moffat in their Bosel Toyota Hilux were in 23rd overall and 4th in Class E. Bevan Berthold and Robin Houghton were still 4th in the SP class, but they were a whopping 39 minutes down on the lead. Go! But all the kudos went to Grobler and Jordan, who went all out on the way home to Gaborone. They were in complete control and had almost 9 minutes worth of gap over the 2nd placed car.
Very, very good. It's unbelievable that we didn't have any problems with the car. The Nissan just ran faultless, and I must say the Navigator was number 1 today.
So the Nissan crew looking for win number 3 in the Toyota Desert Race over 1,000 Ks, and they had a healthy lead over Berthold and Costain. With the Harpers ready to pick up the pieces should anyone in front falter, the ABSA Off-Road Championship continues.